Hey, what is up, mortals? It is JessicaGem here with a new video for you. Welcome to part number 7 of Season 2 of What If Deku Met Ryoko. I just wanted to greet you guys by saying, sit back and relax, you're in for a treat. And so, we begin. The Nomu tried to use its brute strength to expand the hole in the side of the train. The passengers started to freak out, screaming and shouting in a panic. Gran Torino turned to his interns.
You two, stay here.
The tiny man activated his jet quirk. He zoomed through the air and impacted the large Nomu in the chest like a human bullet. Both Melissa and Izuku ran over to the opening and watched as their mentor flew off into the night. In the distance, the two saw a huge fire and the flash of explosions. You're going, aren't you? I can't just stand here if people are in trouble. I need to help if I can. That is what a hero would do. Melissa was moved by these words. She was always amazed by Izuku. It wasn't just that he was ridiculously powerful, but how he carried himself. He was always trying his hardest to be a hero. She knew that he would be a great one someday. Okay, then let's go. There are people to save. Are you sure, Melissa? We could get in trouble for this. Melissa pointed her finger at Izuku. You are not the only one who wants to help. I am also a hero in training. If I can help, then I will. It's as simple as that. Izuku smiled at the perky blonde. Okay, let's get going. Both teams leapt out of the gaping hole and into the night. The two landed on a rooftop and took off running. They used the dodging and weaving skills that they picked up from training with Gran Torino to leap from rooftop to rooftop. After a few minutes of running, they arrived at the site of the massive fire. The scene was straight out of a disaster movie. Cars and buildings were on fire, and the streets were a starburst of cracks. Many heroes rushed about, trying to help evacuate civilians, while others were fighting a losing battle against the brain-headed beasts. Suddenly, the two heard a voice screaming over the scene. Tenya! Where are you, Tenya? What a time for you to disappear! Before the thought could enter Izuku's mind, Melissa spoke. Ida would not just run away from a disaster like this. He nodded. Just what I was thinking. Looks like you weren't worried for nothing. If the hero killer is as dangerous as the news says, then Ida won't be able to handle him. You're right. Where do you think they would be? Izuku took in the scene around him. After 2 minutes, he spoke. We need to look in the back streets. Stain attacked by ambush. He wouldn't be involved in a scene like this. This seems more like the work of that Shigaraki guy. Do you think they're working together? Let's hope not. It would be a bigger disaster than this. Let's go. The two friends turned to run in the opposite direction of the attack, running off into the dimly lit back streets of Hosu. Elsewhere, Ida had found the hero killer. The monstrous man was in the middle of killing a pro-hero. Ida had tried to deliver a hate-filled speech about how the hero killer had hurt his brother, but he didn't get the chance. Stain had quickly pinned the teen to the ground with a sword through the forearm. Ida's eyes still burned with hatred. I will kill you, Stain, because I am a hero and you are a criminal. Shouldn't you be trying to save that guy? Stain pointed at the hero, whose name was Native, slumped against the back wall of the alley. You were so consumed with getting revenge that you forgot about him. You are nowhere near being a hero. You're just like all of the other false heroes I've slain. All of you are only concerned with achieving your hollow goals. Hero is a word for individuals who have achieved great things. Shut up! You're just a villain who hurt my brother! Stain wasted no more words. The anti-hero raised his sword, covered in Ida's blood, to his mouth, and licked the jagged edge. A jolting feeling, not unlike an electric shock, passed through Ida's body. The boy found he could not move, no matter how hard he tried. Stain went to finish off the young boy. Ida silently wondered if this was the end of the line as his attacker raised his katana over his head. Suddenly, Stain froze where he stood. The muscular man struggled as if he was being held by an unknown force. Then, a blur of motion crashed into Stain, sending him flying. The figure was resolved into Melissa Shield. She stood defiantly in front of Ida. "Don't worry, Ida. We're going to save you." "Melissa, what are you doing here?" It took a moment for him to register what she had said. "What do you mean, we?" Stain stood up and took a katana in each hand. "So, you got a friend, Ingenium." The dark man raised his blades and charged towards Melissa. As Stain was about to bring his blades down in a powerful arc, a second green blur came in and caught the strike. Stain's blades collided against another blade in a flash of aqua-green light. Ida was surprised again. "Midoriya? How did you two get here?" Izuku stood holding the hero killer's blades back with Tenchi. The boy had a determined look on his face. In his mind, he thought, "This is the hero killer. He's really strong and fast. If I had been a moment slower, he would have cut me and Melissa in half." Stain broke the clash and leapt toward the back of the alley. Melissa walked up to stand beside Izuku. Her voice had a concerned overtone. "Are you okay?" "He's strong. We should grab Ida and get out of here." "One problem. Look over in the corner." Izuku looked to the side of the alley and saw what Melissa meant. There was an injured hero there too. Izuku was sure his name was Native. "This is a problem. If it was just Ida, one of us could have grabbed him and ran while the other held off Stain. There's no way we can run away with two of them." "You're right. This guy is in another league than the villains in the USJ. He's a skilled combatant, and it's unlikely that he'll let us run. We're going to have to fight." Ida spoke up at this point. "You two, stop your plotting and leave." "What are you talking about?" "It's my job to finish this guy off. He hurt my brother." Izuku looked at Melissa and shook his head. His friend was further gone than he thought. Before the three could talk any more, Stain attacked. Both Izuku and Melissa put their evasive training under Gran Torino to the test. Stain slashed at the pair with a katana in each hand. Even with their enhanced speed, the pair barely managed to escape the assault of the anti-hero. After many close calls, Stain broke off his assault. "You two are good, but I did manage to cut each of you." Stain lifted his swords to his mouth and showed that each one had the tiniest amount of blood on the edge. Both teens looked at their bodies. Izuku had a small cut on his hand, and Melissa had a cut on her arm. "Well, that ends this fight." Stain extended his massive tongue from his mouth. He raised the blades in front of his face and licked each one in turn. Suddenly, Izuku and Melissa felt a shock pass through their bodies. The two fell to the ground and felt their bodies go numb. "I can't move." "I can't either. This must be the hero killer's quirk. The new SETI might have a power like that. But if he could paralyze us, why not just do that when we entered the alley? It's gotta be the blood. It must be an activation requirement for his power. He has to taste a person's blood to freeze them." "What a strange quirk." Ida spoke in a tense voice. "So that's how he did it." "You two are something. You had a flashy entrance and you came to save your friend. I think you are worthy of staying alive. You could become true heroes. But these two need to die. So, just relax while I finish them." The way the tall man so casually talked about killing two people disturbed both Izuku and Melissa. Stain moved to stab Native with one of his daggers. Both teens wanted to stop this, but they were frozen in place. They made silent mental pleas for someone to stop this from happening. Suddenly, a stream of fire shot towards Stain. The man saw this coming and dodged out of the way. Melissa, Izuku, and Ida looked in the direction the fire came from and were surprised by who they saw standing there. "Todoroki!" "Midoriya, at times like this you need to send more than just your general location. I was lucky to get here in time to stop this guy." "Another interruption," Stain thought to himself. "I need to end this quickly. My quirk is going to time out soon for one of them." Todoroki sent several waves of fire and ice against Stain. The villain was fast enough to dodge both attacks. Todoroki managed to keep Stain from taking his blood. Izuku and Melissa had warned him of this when he entered the alley. Even though Todoroki was doing well, Izuku knew that he wouldn't last long like this, Stain was just too good. The green teen closed his eyes and focused. He focused his Jurian senses on his own body. He could see Stain's quirk effect in his body. It looked like a current of red and black electricity circling through. It was a strange energy, but the teen thought he could counter it. Izuku summoned his Lighthawk energy into his body. The energy flowed through his flesh, bringing a cooling feeling like aloe on a sunburn. To Izuku's senses, it looked like a flood of aqua light overtaking his physical form. The Jurian teen then altered the energy wavelength. When he found the right one, it started to counteract Stain's power. After a moment of this activity, Izuku's body was flushed of the dark energy and he could move again. Izuku stood up and moved stealthily over to Melissa. The girl was so enthralled by the battle between Todoroki and Stain that she didn't notice Izuku was able to move until he was right next to her. Mida? Izuku held up his index finger to his mouth to signal for silence. Melissa realized her friend was right. Izuku spoke in a hushed tone so as not to draw attention. I use my healing capability to remove the paralysis. Melissa spoke in an equally hushed tone. Can you do that for me and Ida? Izuku looked over at his engine-legged friend. The teen still had a look of outrage on his face. Ida seemed to be in the middle of an internal conflict. The green teen looked back at Melissa. I can, but I don't think it would be a good idea to release Ida. In his current state, he would be more of a problem than a help. Melissa remembered Ida's words when she and Izuku had shown up in the alley. The words still chilled her more than the stinging presence of Stain's power. Melissa nodded in silent agreement. Izuku returned the nod and placed his hand on Melissa's shoulder. A warm feeling passed through the blonde girl's body, and the stinging feeling that had consumed her body faded and her strength and movement returned. Melissa got to her feet, and the two teens went on the attack. This video is sponsored by Adobe. Adobe is redefining the digital experience through game-changing innovations that shape the next generation of storytelling. Adobe makes it easy to create, edit, and share digital documents securely, allowing you to collaborate and communicate across devices. Adobe Photoshop is your go-to application for raster graphics editing and digital art as a whole. At We the Celestials, all our thumbnails across every channel are created with Adobe Photoshop. Adobe Premiere Pro is a timeline-based and non-linear video editing software application that is versatile and easy for beginners and master editors. Finally, Adobe After Effects is the industry-standard tool for digital visual effects, motion graphics, and compositing applications used in post-production. Many of our voice actors, audio editors, and video editors use Premiere Pro and After Effects to produce these high-quality videos. Check the link in the description to start creating now, and thank you to Adobe for sponsoring this video. Suddenly, Stain found himself facing three powerful students. As Stain slashed and dodged, he thought to himself,
How did those two time out already? They must be type O. No matter, I can still finish this.
An epic 3-on-1 battle ensued. While Stain was outnumbered, his greater combat experience kept him in the fight. Even though the three UA students were making an impact, they were getting cut and beaten up for it. Tenya Ida watched as the fierce battle unfolded. As he looked on helplessly, the words of the hero killer flowed through his mind. The teen realized that Stain may have been an unforgivable villain, but he was right about him. He had come to this alley not to prevent other heroes from being killed, but to get revenge for himself. Those were not the actions of a true hero. He saw his classmates getting battered and bruised because of him. He wanted to cry out for them to stop this and run away, but he knew that would do no good. Ida knew that Midoriya, Melissa, and Todoroki were not the kind of people who could leave innocents to die. They embodied what it meant to be true heroes. All of this made Ida feel like the lowest of life forms. As Ida started wallowing in self-pity, he remembered his brother, the man that had inspired him to become a hero. Ida remembered the conversation he had had with his brother in the hospital. The injured man had told him that his time as the hero ingenium was over, and that he wanted Tenya to take the name. Ida's face became resolute. His tears dried up, and his eyes took on a stern quality. He knew if he died here that the hero Ingenium would also die. That was something that the blue-haired boy could not allow. Ida felt the stinging sensation fade from his body. He knew that if he didn't stand now, then he would never become the hero he wanted to be. The teen stood up and fired up his engines. He zoomed across the alley and delivered a powerful kick to the hero killer. Thank you all, but I will take it from here. You have put yourself in enough danger for me. Glad to see you're back up, Ida, but we're not going anywhere. It's gonna take all of us to defeat this guy. Look at him. Stain was covered in bruises, cuts, and burns. The man's eyes had glazed over and he was breathing heavily. His fighting style has changed. He's fighting like a wild animal. The only way we get out of this is by working together to take him down. Okay, class rep. What should we do? We fight together. Me and Todoroki will use our powers to keep Stain from moving. You and Melissa need to deliver the final blow. Sounds like a plan. Let's do this! The two teens rejoined the fray. Todoroki unleashed a barrage of ice and fire waves. Stain managed to slice through the ice, but he did get several more burns. Izuku then used his telekinesis to grab hold of the injured hero killer. Melissa and Ida knew that this was their chance to finish this. Melissa channeled her power throughout her body. An aura of red lightning lined her. Ida revved his engines to the max, and the fire from his exhausts turned blue. Melissa charged forward at full speed. She drew her fist back and shouted at the top of her lungs, "California Smash!" Her punch impacted the hero killer's cheek. At the same time, Ida hit Stain with a powerful kick across the midsection. As he impacted, he screamed, "Recipro Burst!" For good measure, Todoroki hit the villain with a wave of fire, and Izuku delivered a powerful barrage of slashes with Tenchi. Stain fell to the ground. Even unconscious, the man was not to be trusted. The group rummaged through the dumpsters and found some rope. They then used the rope to restrain the hero killer. Ida demanded that he should be the one to do the work, but the others pointed out that he could not do so with his arm being injured. Izuku knew that the ropes would hold Stain on their own, but he didn't want to take any chances. The possessed way that the man fought had scared the boy to his core. Izuku grabbed the rope and summoned his Lighthawk energy. Then he transformed the rope into a giant metal body cuff. He figured that would be strong enough to hold the hero killer. Melissa and the others gave Izuku a questioning look. The green teen responded, "I'm just making sure he can't get out." The group dragged Stain and themselves to the main street. As they exited the alley, a familiar voice shouted from across the street, "What are you two doing here?" Izuku and Melissa were going to respond to the elderly hero, but the old man flew through the air and kicked the two in the face with his giant boots. "I told you to stay on the bullet train." Gran Torino stood in front of the group with steam coming off his head. "Who is this?" "Gran Torino, the hero Melissa and I are interning with." Just then, a group of heroes and sidekicks came upon them. Everyone was surprised to see a group of hero students with a tied-up hero killer. They were going to start asking questions when a flying Nomu appeared in the air over them. The creature swooped in on the group and wrapped his talons around Melissa. He then flew off into the air, leaving everyone with their eyes wide. The beast was too high for Gran Torino to reach. Izuku was too exhausted from the fight with Stain to summon his airboard. Both felt absolutely helpless as they watched the Nomu fly away with a shocked Melissa in tow. The creature didn't get far, however. A bright red orb of energy hit the creature in the face. Then a fast-moving object impacted the Nomu, sending it crashing to the ground. Hovering in the air, with Melissa in her arms, was Ryoko. Izuku's face was a mask of surprise. "Ryoko!" "Hey, Izuku, Todoroki, Ida. Sorry I'm late. It took me a while to get here from Night Eye's office." Ryoko landed next to her friends and let Melissa down gently. Melissa dusted herself off and spoke in a grateful voice. "Thanks for your help, Ryoko. I would have been in big trouble if you hadn't come." "I think you could have gotten free. Landing safely would have been the tricky part." The heroes present were so amazed at what they had seen that it took being yelled at by Gran Torino to get them to secure the Nomu and Stain. At that, the minor heroes went to work. The next morning, Izuku and his classmates awoke in the nearby hospital that they had been taken to have their injuries looked after. The boys were placed in one room while Melissa was placed in another. The chief of the Hosu police stopped by and gave the teens a stern talking to. They all agreed that they had acted out of line. It was agreed that they would receive no punishment for their action if they allowed the hero Endeavor to take the credit. They all agreed to this proposal. The same dog-headed man then paid a visit to Melissa's room, and she also agreed. In the end, the chief thanked the young heroes for their brave and selfless actions. A short while later, Ryoko paid Melissa a visit. The white-haired girl was concerned with how her friend was doing after the events of the previous day. Ryoko opened the door to Melissa's hospital room. The blonde girl sat quietly on her bed, staring at the wall.
Good morning, Melissa. Looks like you're in good shape.
Melissa was in her hospital gown, but all of her wounds and bruises from last night were gone. You just missed Midoriya. He used his power to heal my cuts and bruises, as well as 2 stress fractures I received in the fight. The doctors say that I'll be able to return to my internship tomorrow.
Well, that's good news. I really wanted to ask how you're doing.
Ryoko pointed to her head as she spoke.
What you went through last night was intense.
Melissa was quiet for a long moment before she answered. It was. I wasn't able to sleep last night because of it. But this morning I realized that I made the right decision coming to UA and training under All Might. This is what I was meant to do. I will become a hero that can save everyone. Ryoko's face broke out in a huge smile.
I know you will.
Melissa gave the white-haired girl a knowing nod in return. Ryoko scratched the back of her head. She had something very awkward to ask her friend. She couldn't think of a delicate way to ask, so she just went for it.
Is there something going on between you and Izuku?
Melissa's face turned a bright shade of red at this comment. She tried to respond as calmly as possible, but a slight hint of embarrassment was present in her voice. He's my friend and classmate. There's nothing more to it than that. She then used her hands to cover her now very red face from Ryoko. Ryoko got a curious look in her eye. She was good enough at reading people to know Melissa was hiding something.
Are you sure?
Yes, Midori and I are just friends. Ryoko didn't believe that, but it wasn't her place to pry.
Okay. Not that you're interested, but I know that Izuku thinks very highly of you too. Just thought you should know that.
Melissa's face became even more red at this point. Thank you for that, Ryoko. But I can't focus on romance right now. My sole focus must be getting stronger as a hero. I also know that this is Midoriya's goal too.
All right then, you go for it.
As Ryoko turned to leave the room, she thought to herself,
Izuku and Melissa are alike in so many ways. I wonder which of them will see it first.
Izuku was on his way back to the boys' room to heal their injuries when a thought occurred to him. He had stopped to call his mother and grandfather. The woman exploded from concern when Izuku told her what happened. She calmed down after several minutes of emotional ranting. His grandfather only told him that he was glad he was okay, and that he was proud of him for behaving like a true hero. When Izuku returned to the room, both Todoroki and Ida had grim looks on their faces.
What happened, you two? Midoriya. Ida just got his test results.
It looks like the fight damaged a major nerve in my arm. It could be repaired with surgery.
Ida, I could use my power to repair the damage. It would take no time at all, and you could return to training. In fact, that's what I was about to do.
Ida shook his head sadly. That is a very kind thing, Midoriya, but no. The events of last night have shown me that I have a long way from being the hero I wish to be. I put all of you in danger because I allowed myself to be consumed by rage. Tears streamed down the stern teen's face as he spoke. We told you that we understand, Ida. No one blames you for last night. You just made a dumb decision. I know all of that, but still the point remains.
I will leave my hand as it is until I can call myself a hero. Besides, the injury will only slightly limit my dexterity, and there will be some numbness. I don't agree with your decision, but I will honor it. Let's all work hard to become heroes. There are people that need rescuing. The three boys shared a determined look. Each one was making a silent vow to become the greatest hero in the world. Meanwhile, All Might sat in the UA teacher's workroom, working on the assignment and paperwork for when the students returned. Suddenly, his phone started ringing.
A phone call is here. A phone call is here.
The other UA teachers in the room could not believe that he was his own ringtone. All Might picked up his phone and hit the accept button. Yes, hello?
Toshinori, we need to talk.
Thank you all for indulging yourselves in the content thus far. I hope you've enjoyed it. Now, there are a few more things that I'd like to go over before the video ends. Firstly, I'd like to thank our patrons. BD Flames, Ethan Davis, Terry Chills, Shifter Melees, Adam Zagel, Zill, XavBeat03, and Joshua Phelps. Secondly, I'd also like to thank all of our YouTube members. Toy Acosta, Rob the King, Sith Lord 906, CF2364, and Knuckles, Rimueo Tempest, Angel Juarez, Donald C. Stewart, Bryant Greer, and Demonized Fox. Thirdly, if you're in the mood for some great storytelling, We the Celestials has you covered. Our We the Celestials My Hero Academia and Naruto What If channels retell the story of their namesakes anime with a twist. Check it out if you're interested. Fourthly, on behalf of We the Celestials, I'd like to thank everyone involved in the production of today's excellent content. Their details can be found in the description below. Lastly, if you're interested in what we do here at We the Celestials, I'd like to extend an invitation to join the team. The only caveat is that we only accept members from 16 years or older to join our crew. You can sign up for whichever category fulfills your interests by joining the recruitment Discord using the link in the description below. We're always looking for members to join us. Well, that's it from us for today's video, so thank you all for watching. Farewell and have a divine day.